Hello, I'm here with Angie Bray. Please introduce yourself.
Angie Bray, MP for Ealing Central and Acton.
You've been in Parliament since 2010, but you've also worked in the party since the late 80s. How have times changed in regards to women being equally represented in Parliament?
Obviously things are a lot different now than when I first got involved in politics. I have to say, moving from journalism, from a radio station into Conservative Central Office was itself quite an interesting culture change, because it was a little bit like stepping back into a different world. I think things were a little bit further ahead in the world of journalism. But yeah, I mean, it was, you know, pretty sort of male dominated, and the women tended to do the more junior work. I was in fact able to run the broadcasting side of the press office, which I did on my own. But for the first year or so when I was there, it was very dated. Then we had a new girl came in from number 10 and sort of spruced up the press operation, and in doing so actually began to make the changes which I think have gone on there. So, and as far as Parliament's concerned, obviously I'm new to it, so I don't know how it may have changed, but it does feel to me still quite like a male bastion, albeit I think that men are minding their manners a lot more, and I think they are, you know, I think they accept the fact that we're there, and you know, I don't think there's the kind of bullying that I had heard took place in early times. I think we do more easily stand on our own feet and are respected for it.
I mean, have there only been funny experiences in your time dealing with the sort of male-dominated?
Yeah, I mean, actually, when I was elected to the London Assembly back in 2000, on the morning of the election, the Conservative group arrived at the building for their first meeting, and I arrived with the newly elected member Tony Arbour for South West, and he was greeted by the doorman, "Morning, Mr. Arbour," and then he said to me, "Morning, love, have you come about the typing job?" So I said, "Well, actually, I've just been elected to represent London West Central." He was called Bob, I subsequently discovered. Bob was terribly apologetic. I mean, he was appallingly embarrassed. I actually thought it was very funny, but I suppose it does just show. And he was of that generation.
Hilarious. And in 1979, I mean, as you said, you've had a sort of background in broadcasting. You joined the British Forces Broadcasting Service in Gibraltar, and then a year later you joined LBC Radio as a presenter, producer and reporter. Do you think it's important that women thinking about going into politics have a background and work away?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't just say that about women. I think it's actually very good for anyone going to politics to have, I think, what they used to call a hinterland, which means that, you know, you have got an area of experience and expertise and just you know, knowledge of life that you can bring to the political table, because it is important to have some breadth and some, you know, experience of life. I think for women, it's obviously going to stand them in good stead, because, as I say, as they are making their reputations, it is easier now, but there's never any doubt about the fact that if you speak with experience, you speak on a matter with obvious experience, it automatically elevates you and you gain that added respect, and people are going to listen more carefully to what you're saying.
Very true. And how would you suggest women get involved in politics now if they are thinking about becoming an MP in the future?
Well, they've got to obviously make some decisions, because politics is time consuming. There's no doubt, not just being an MP, but just anything to do with politics is time consuming, and sometimes there's a burst of activity at times when you might not have necessarily planned for it, because there's suddenly an emergency on, a campaign needs to be done. So you've got to be flexible, and you've got to be prepared to down tools and other things to make time for it. My advice is to get stuck in locally to start with. You know, a lot of people go the councillor route, which is excellent. I actually went the sort of London Assembly route, which is not dissimilar. But equally, you know, you can start even younger and even in a more meaningful way by just getting right in the local level, joining a local residents association or whatever you might have locally that is organising about local matters. Just getting used to hearing your voice being heard and making sure that you are seen to be taking a stand on things that on behalf of your neighbours is a really good start in politics.
Brilliant. And you actually stood in 1997 but was unsuccessful. How would you encourage others that have been unsuccessful candidates to sort of pluck up the energy to run again?
Well, I have to say, I think in a sense that, I mean, it's a kind of tradition that most people seem to follow, in our party at least. Not always, but quite often, that you do a hopeless seat first. And I think there's a good reason for that, because it does actually sort out the sheep from the goats. I mean, some people will just simply discover that it's not for them. They don't like it, they don't particularly enjoy endlessly knocking on doors and having to talk to strange people and taking the flak and actually having to find an argument that has to be made. It isn't for everybody, and also the hours and trailing around. But others discover in doing it in a hopeless seat that actually it is for them. They're good at it, they enjoy it, they think about it all the time, and they can't wait to get stuck in. I mean, if it's a loss of nerve, I think it's the same sort of advice that you give someone who falls off a horse. When the little kid rides the first time, you have to get them back on the horse as quickly as possible so that they don't lose their nerve. I think you might say with politics, if it's just about the fact that you've lost and it's a disappointment and you've lost a bit of confidence, well, get back to it as quickly as possible, because you very quickly forget that and you get stuck into the next campaign. But as I say, it is a useful way, because some people will discover it simply isn't for them, and others will discover they want to make it their life.
Yeah, brilliant. And what do you feel the Conservative Party is actually doing to encourage more women into Parliament?
I think it's made huge strides. I think that Women2Win has been very, very influential in that. And I think that you just got to see in the new intake the number of women who are already, making names themselves and getting stuck in and pretty sort of fearless in getting up and making their presence felt in the chamber. And I think that the more we can do that, the more we're going to be able to lead by example and encourage people who just see us out there enjoying ourselves, enjoying being a politician, enjoying being a member of Parliament. That's probably the best way to encourage others to follow suit. But it is very much about having the time and the commitment, because it is absolutely true that with the best will in the world, Parliament does get in the way of your outside life, and that's just something you have to decide that you're happy about that.
And finally, will we be seeing our next female leader of a party anytime soon?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a few people around that I can see, coming on, women on our side of things. I mean, I think Theresa May is making a terrific job as Home Secretary, and, that's sort of literally touch wood for her, because, the Home Secretary's job is, notoriously one that, most people end up getting dropped in it somewhere along the line. But so far, I think she's been exemplary. I think Justine Greening is actually showing real fire at the dispatch box. I mean, she is somebody who no doubt reads the brief that's been given to her when she's answering questions at the dispatch box, but she always seems to add a little political twist, which just puts the boot in a way that delights all of us, sitting on the same side of the house. So I would say there are some women out there who are definitely contenders for the top jobs.
Brilliant. Well, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much.